Welcome to today's AZTurboCourt e-filing training. My name is Stephen Kimmelman with Intrasys. We are the makers of AZTurboCourt. And in today's training webinar, we're going to be focusing on subsequent filings, that is, filing additional documents into an existing case. I'm also going to be covering the differences in the requirements and the way the different courts go about doing their business, and comparing those differences, showing you actually on screen the different ways of submitting additional documents into the different courts. So let's go ahead and jump right in and take a look at the software. All right, so what we're looking at right now is the AZTurboCourt Filer portal. Now this is a testing environment, as you can see, but this looks very similar to what you'll encounter when you are in production. And so to get here, it's just going to turbocourt.com. You can also find it typically on links through the Arizona courts. And I'm not going to be covering registration and all of that. That's actually covered in the administration training. So once you've got your user account set up, you're going to have a username and a password that's going to allow you to very quickly and easily log in. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And I'm somebody who has, per this particular login, somebody who's already been creating and submitting filings to the various courts. So when I first log in, I'm already seeing some filings here at the top. These are going to be the 5 most recent filings that I've been working on. Okay, they may be on the same case, they may be on different cases, they may be different case types or in different statuses. I'll cover that in detail. But these are going to be the 5 most recent that I've been working on. And so each one of these rows represents a unique filing, or what we call in the AZTurboCourt world a form set. But those terms are one and the same thing. A form set and a filing are the same thing. Each of your filings, each of your form sets is given a unique AZTurboCourt number. And if I wanted to look at or work on any of these particular filings, I would simply click on its form set number, and it'll take me right in there and allow me to do whatever it is that I need to do. Okay. If Arizona is not currently showing as your jurisdiction when you first log in, then simply click the Change Jurisdiction link and navigate to Arizona, and it will then show you all the different case types that are going to be available to you to file in production at that point in time. Okay. For purposes of today's training, we're going to be focusing on general civil filings into the superior courts. And so let's just go right into it. In this training, as I said, the focus is on subsequent filings. So this is a scenario where I've got an existing case in an Arizona court, and I need to file some additional documents. Okay. And to begin, I simply find that general civil case type, and I click Start Now. And then I'm going to select where I'm needing to file. So let me just take a moment here to talk about the differences between the courts across the state of Arizona. They do have different requirements, they do have different ways of doing business, and it's really important for you to know that. And the way to think of this is to think of it as 3 different approaches, if you will. So there is the PIMA way of doing things, there is the Maricopa way of doing things, and then there is the what I call the all other counties way of doing things, which is essentially when you're filing into any county that is not PIMA or Maricopa, those other counties, they all share a common approach and rules and so forth. Okay, so if you're filing additional documents in Maricopa, it's very different than when you're filing additional documents in Santa Cruz or Pinal or Yavapai, or right. Same thing with PIMA. You know, they've got their way of doing things. And AZTurboCourt knows this precisely and models their requirements and their way of doing business precisely. And so you're going to hear me saying this many times, and that is that the general rule of thumb is that If you simply follow along with what's presented to you on screen for the jurisdiction you're filing into, you shouldn't go wrong, because we've modeled their requirements and the way they do business exactly. And the whole intention here is that we help you to prepare an e-filing that is what I call clean. It'll go right into the court system. There have very little reason to reject it. That's significantly less likelihood of rejections, quicker processing, significantly fewer reasons for delaying the processing of your filing. Okay, so that's really the point of all of this. And I will, as I said, show you those differences in the All Other Counties group. Several of those courts have just gone to mandatory e-filing, as well as the differences between them and Pima and Maricopa. All right, so, and actually one other quick thing from this screen, I just want to point out that we have this incredibly helpful quick guide. And if you click on this link right here, it will bring up a PDF, and you can obviously view it on screen, but I actually recommend downloading it and printing it or keeping it on your hard drive somewhere so that you have it. This is going to show you those important distinctions when you're filing into Maricopa or Pima or the All Other Counties group of counties. All right, so for example, what's the maximum file size for your documents? What's the maximum number of characters you can put in the title or the description when you're attaching your own documents? For example, some of the other capabilities. And as I scroll down here, there's an entire section on the distinction when you're initiating a case, which we will not be covering in this particular training. That's a separate training. But as I scroll down, then there's several pages on subsequent filings and all of the important distinctions when you are filing additional documents into an existing case. Okay, and so I highly recommend you grabbing that. So that's our General Civil Quick Guide. Okay, so I'm going to first indicate where I'm filing. And so, for example, if I were to say I'm filing into Pima, it will by default select the location as Superior Court, because for Pima there's no other options there. But if I were to select, for example, let's say Yavapai, there are multiple locations, and so then I would select the appropriate one for my circumstances. I'll click Next, and in this training, we're going to be focusing on the second option, filing into an existing case. Okay, so because I'm filing into Yavapai, we will be showing you the valid case number format or formats for that jurisdiction. So when you go to provide your case number, which is needed right here, the asterisks shows you that it's a required question. This is going to give you the at least the format for what they're looking for. Okay, because what's going to happen is you're going to provide your case number, and then we're actually going to make a call, if you will, into Yavapai's system and ask them, do you have this case number in your system for General Civil Superior Court? And if they do, great, you can proceed, and we'll actually retrieve a lot of information from your case to help you very quickly submit additional documents. If for some reason they don't find your case, that case number, then we'll keep you on this screen with some sort of a red alert message, and then you'll try again. Okay, so let's say, for example, so that's Yavapai's case number format. If I were to go back, for example, and say Pima, notice it's very, very different from Yavapai's, and in fact, they've got several different case number formats that will work. Okay. And the last thing I want to bring to your attention with regards to these case numbers is if you ever find yourself filing into an existing case in Mojave. So let's go there, and I'll click Next. And so you'll see they've got 3 different case number formats, okay, based on location. Now, what's very important to know about Mojave is that when they stamp the case number on the documents, they do not include the prefix, okay? So what you're going to see stamped on the documents begins with this CV, or whatever that number happens to be, okay? So if you're looking at your documents and you see that case number, CV, whatever it happens to be, and then you were to put that here in the case number field, we're not going to find that in their system because that's not actually the entire case number, okay? So that's why we're showing you here the prefixes for these different locations so that you remember to include that prefix when you provide the full case number, okay? All right, so rather than watching me type, I'm going to go ahead and load a filing that I've already created so we can walk through it, and I can also show you some additional functionality. But just as a general understanding of how creating and submitting filings through AZTurboCourt works, think of that as a three-step process. Now, this is true whether you're doing case initiation or whether you're simply filing additional documents into one of your existing cases. It's the same three-step process. And that process is the following. Step one, you're going to answer a few questions. Step two, you're going to attach your documents. And then step three, you're going to electronically submit everything and include payment if payment is required. Okay? So it's a simple 1, 2, 3 process. All right, so I'm going to go back here and load a filing that I've already created. That's the end result of it. Let's go back to the beginning. And I'm also going to switch over to, that's not what I wanted. There we go. To another filing. This is for Penal. Great. Back. And this is in PIMA. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to first show you a simple filing scenario where you're filing some additional documents into an existing case. In this first scenario, it's a very common one. It's where this is not your first appearance. You're not filing your initial answer or response or anything like that. You're simply filing some additional documents into a case that you've already been filing into. So that's a very, very common situation, okay? And in that scenario, I'm going to also show you the differences between the different counties. The all of the counties approach, the PIMA approach, and a little bit about the Maricopa approach. PIMA and Maricopa are somewhat similar, but there's a couple of important distinctions with Maricopa that I'll very quickly show you as well, okay? And from there, then we'll look at a more complex filing scenario in filing into an existing case, okay? So just to give you a little bit of the lay of the land of where we're going here. All right, so let me just go back to where we started from. So I'm logged in, I'm in Arizona. I said I'm needing to do a general civil filing. And so it asked me, great, where do you need to file? And I said, I'm filing into PIMA. Okay, let's proceed, clicking next. I'm filing into an existing case, and here's my case number. And so when I click next, we're, as I said, going to make a call to PIMA's system. And we actually are connected live with them right now, by the way. Now, it's their testing environment as well, but we are connected with all of these counties and their systems right now. At least I hope they're all up. And so when I click next, we're going to reach out to PIMA and say, do you have that case number? And if it finds it, it will just take me to the very next screen. If not, it's going to leave me here and say, wait a minute, we didn't find that one. So I'm clicking next. And okay, so it's bringing me right here into the AZTurboCourt interview. So that basically means they found that case number. So here we're at the beginning of step one, answering a few questions. Okay, and as I said, AZTurboCourt is going to basically walk you through this based on the jurisdiction you're filing into. And you'll see for an existing case, and particularly this scenario, it's going to be very fast. Now, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different scenarios and what-if situations and comparing the counties and all of that. But in reality, and you'll see this in a moment, you're actually going to be able to do this in 60 seconds. I kid you not. So I'm going to do a lot of explaining right now, which is not going to be 60 seconds, but then I'll go back and walk you through what you're really going to be doing when you're actually creating your own filing, and you'll see it's a minute. It's very, very fast. So here's the beginning, and so great. Let me click next. And what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, this is the case number you provided. this is the information that we just retrieved from the court's case management system, the name of the case and the current list of case participants, attorneys, plaintiffs, defendants. There might be a mediator or an arbitrator there, whatever that happens to be. So you might look at that and say, yep, that's my case. Let's proceed, and click next. You might also look at that and say, wait a minute, that's not my case. Apparently that's a valid case number in PIMA, but that's not my case. And maybe you transposed the last two digits and it was supposed to be 4-3, right, and not 3-4. Okay, no problem. Just click the change case number button here and provide the proper case number and proceed accordingly. Okay, but in this situation, let's just assume that, yeah, that's actually the case I want to file into, and let's proceed. I click next. All right, so here we already begin to see, we're going to start seeing differences in PIMA versus Maricopa versus the all other counties approach. Because in PIMA, the very first question they're going to ask you is, have you previously paid your appearance fee? And your question is yes, no, or not applicable. Now, you'll see that that NA is a link, right? And you'll also notice on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a question box. These are frequently asked questions, or FAQs. And so you may see these from time to time, and if I were to click on that FAQ, it'll just bring up a separate window with an appropriate response to the question. And so here are situations where a first appearance fee may not be required. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And so if I were to click on the link to that NA, it would take me to that same FAQ. It's just another way of accessing it. Okay. So what you're going to see is that for the most part, the courts are really going to ultimately ask for much of the same information, but the order in which they do it and the placement of those questions will vary. So I'll walk you through this PIMA one first, and then we'll take a look at the all other counties approach and walk you through the same filing scenario, but you'll see how the screens are going to be different. Okay. So here we are in PIMA, and in this situation, yeah, as I said, this is a simple filing scenario. I've been filing on this case already. And so, yes, we've already paid our appearance fee. A simple response there. I click next. Okay, so then now they want to know, who are you? Who's filing? And once again, we simply pull from the court's case management system who they have on record, right? And if I were to pretend that I'm Matthew, there's nothing more for me to do. I simply select my name and I click next, okay? But what if I'm not on the list yet? Well, we'll get to that in just a bit, okay, in the next filing scenario. So for this simple filing scenario, as I said, I've been filing on this case, so of course, the court already has me on record, and that's me, Matthew. Great, I click next. Here, they're asking two questions. Do the parties that you represent have an active order from the court waiving or deferring filing fees, either for this entire case or for a specific document? If so, I would check that box, and we'd suppress fees. The other choice here is, or the other question is, whether or not you've been appointed, perhaps as an arbitrator or as a mediator, okay? So you could check the appropriate box if that's applicable. Since none of those situations apply to me, there's nothing for me to do on this screen, and so I'm simply going to click next. And then I have one more question to answer, and then I'm done. And that question is, what's the main document that you're going to be filing in this particular submission? Now, when you're filing into either PIMA or the all other counties group of counties, you're actually going to be able to provide up to 6 main documents, what they call main documents. And each of those documents is going to be able to have its own supporting documents as well. So if you need to, you're going to be able to submit a lot of documents in a single filing when you're filing into PIMA or the all other counties group. This is where Maricopa, at least at this point in time, differs. In Maricopa, they have a limit of only 1 main document per filing. So if you had 2 motions, for example, in your filing into a Maricopa case, you would do that as 2 separate filings. But in these other counties, you would do that, or you could do that as a single filing, and we highly recommend that you do that. If you've got, a few motions and an affidavit and a certificate or whatever that might be, any combination of documents up to 6, you can include in a single filing. And so we highly recommend you do that. It's much, much easier to track a single filing than it is to track 5 separate filings, right? So again, just another distinction right now between some of the counties. All right, so the way PEMA presents this question is you've got document categories, okay, as you see here, and you can select one of them, right? This is going to be your number 1 main document. So even though I'm going to be able to attach up to 6 main documents, the court wants to know for this particular filing, which of those documents do you consider your number 1 primary or main document? And it's up to you, right? So I could say, for example, a motion. And then when I look at the drop-down list for motions, it's going to show me all of the motions that PEMA has in their system. So these are very specific to PEMA's motion types, okay? And so as you look through this, you would just select the appropriate motion, and then you would proceed from there, okay? So you'll see in a moment that when we go to file into one of the All Other Counties group, their list of motions is going to be different. And so the idea here is that, and it's not just an idea, it's the way it's implemented, is that you're not going to be submitting to the court a document type that they don't have in their system, which would then cause a delay because their clerks are going to have to figure out how to recategorize what you just sent them. And imagine if you're sending them lots of documents and they all need to be recategorized, and it's up to the clerk to figure that out. Well, now all of a sudden you've got a delay, right? So again, we're doing everything we can up front to alleviate those sorts of things, okay? So, and if I want, I could say an affidavit. And whichever affidavit type I select, or I could just say a generic affidavit, and it could be some other type of affidavit, okay? And that's it, I'm done. And so when I click next, which I'm not going to do just yet, but when I click next, AZTurboCourt is going to analyze all of my responses, and it's going to do several things for me. It's going to set up some placeholders for required documents that I need to attach to make this a complete filing. So again, that there's no reason for delay or rejection, because based on what I said I'm filing, we know the court's rules as to what they need and need from you, okay? And so we'll make sure that you attach those documents. You'll also have the ability, of course, to attach additional documents. We'll also calculate fees based on the nature of what you're filing per that jurisdiction's fee schedule. So there's not going to be any guesswork as to how much to pay, underpaying, overpaying, again, anything that might cause a delay, right? So we alleviate that problem. And in a number of instances, AZTurboCourt is going to generate documents for you on your behalf. And I'll show you some of those situations. And so that you don't even have to create the document yourself, AZTurboCourt will generate it for you. And in fact, if you look at that quick guide that I showed you at the beginning, that PDF that shows you, the differences between the counties, it's also going to show you which documents AZTurboCourt is going to generate for you in different circumstances. So you can just very quickly look at that and say, great, I don't need to create that one because AZTurboCourt is going to do it for me, okay? So let's go ahead and start from the beginning, because now that I've sort of explained some of these differences and different scenarios and county differences, now let's just walk through as though I'm really creating this filing for the first time. Okay, so I'm logged in, I'm in Arizona, I say I need to do a general civil filing, and now I'm going to indicate where I'm filing, and so I select my location. I indicate I'm filing into a new case, and I type in my case number. I click next, PEMA finds it, and it brings me here, or wherever you happen to be filing. And this is true for all of the counties. The process is the same. I'm clicking next. Yep, that's my case. Great. Click next. A simple yes, no question. Next. By the way, every time you click the next button, AZTurboCourt automatically saves everything, so you don't need to remember to save any of this. Who are you? I'm Matthew. None of those things apply to me. Click next. What's the main document? I'm going to be filing an application. That's it. I'm done. So I'm not kidding. It really is a 60-second process in most of your filing scenarios when you're filing into an existing case. Okay? So now that I've shown you this scenario in PIMA, now let's look at the exact same scenario, but in one of the counties that's part of the all other counties group, okay, including those counties that just recently went to mandatory e-filing. All right, so for that, I'm going to switch to a different server. So we'll keep this one here for PIMA, and I'm going to switch to a different server to show you a filing in one of those other counties. And because I'm going to be going back and forth between the two, between the all other county filing and the PIMA filing, I want to give you a visual cue to help you follow along so you don't get lost as to where are we filing into again. So when we're looking at these PIMA filings, what you'll notice is that at the top of the screen, I left the URL bar here at the top, okay, showing the address of each of those pages. Okay, so when you're seeing that URL bar at the top, that's going to tell you that we're looking at a PIMA filing or potentially a Maricopa filing. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to the all other counties group, and you'll notice there's no URL bar here at the top. It's a clean screen, if you will, at the top. Okay, so that's going to tell you that we're creating a filing in the all other counties group. This one happens to be in Pinal, but it could be any of those other counties. I guess I ran out of time and need to log back in. Okay, let's just do that real quick. Great. Okay, so here for this Pinal filing, we'll give it just a moment to go back to the beginning. I'm going to walk you through the exact same scenario that we just did in PIMA, but you're going to see how Pinal does things a little bit differently. So let me just take you through that. So here I am in Pinal. I click Next. I provide my Pinal case number. I click Next, and they found it. So I click Next, and as you can see, different case name, different case participants. That's my case. Terrific. Click Next. So the very first question that you're being asked is not, have you previously paid your appearance fee? The very first question you're going to be asked when you're filing into an existing case in the all other counties group is, who are you? Okay. So again, for this simple scenario, I'm somebody who's already been filing on this case, so I'm simply going to say I'm Vincent. Great. I click Next. And now they're asking, who do you represent? So I'm going to say I represent the plaintiff. Yes, you can add new case participants, but I'm not going to walk you through that right now. Here is where they're asking if you've previously paid your appearance fee. Same yes/no question. And here is the checkbox where you can indicate you've got an order waiving or deferring fees. Okay. I click Next. And my last question is, what's your main document? But as you can see, it's visually presented differently. So the document categories, which were presented as checkboxes when you're filing into PIMA or Maricopa as well. PIMA and Maricopa share that common interface of checkboxes for selecting your main document. When you're filing into the all other counties group, the document categories are presented as simply a drop-down list. And this is their set of document categories. And so if I were to say I'm filing a motion as my main document, then I'm going to see a list of motions that are available in the all other counties group. They've got a lot of motion types. Okay. If you can't find your motion type in this very long list of motions, you can still just say some other motion, basically. Okay. You'll also notice that there's a couple of other checkboxes here that you didn't see in PIMA. I'll actually get to those in just a bit. But if I were saying I was filing an affidavit, you'll notice that their list of affidavits is different than the list of affidavits that we just saw in PIMA. Quite a few more. Okay. But once again, I could also just say just a regular affidavit. But I'll say affidavit of a person. Okay. And that's it. I'm done. I did a couple of quick clicks, indicated my main document, and I'm ready to start moving on to attaching my documents. Okay. So as I said, I will come back to these checkboxes in a bit, But let's go ahead and proceed and see what happens now, because I'm done with step one, and now I want to start attaching my documents, right? So I'll click next, and AZTurboCourt is going to analyze everything that I just did. We'll give it a moment to do that, and voila, now I'm on to step two, where I can attach my documents, okay? So where we are at the moment in terms of the status of this particular form set of this filing is, you'll see the status here, and its current status is called completed, okay? Completed means that you finished answering whatever questions were required, okay? Now, the very next step for you is to attach your documents and then to electronically submit everything. Once you've successfully submitted those documents to the court, the status of your form set, of your filing, will change from completed to delivered, okay? And then once the court accepts your filing, the status will change from delivered to e-filed. And that's ultimately what you're looking for, right? So essentially, you're looking at statuses going from completed to delivered to e-filed, okay? And if for some reason you get pulled away from your desk while you were in the middle of answering those few questions and you didn't finish it, first of all, not a problem, because as I said, every single time you click the next button, AZTurboCourt automatically saves everything for you. And of course, it's web-based, so you can continue it from anywhere. You can continue it from home or whatever you need to do there. And it'll just remember everything you did up until that moment, and then you can just continue where you left off, right? But if you, in fact, got pulled away from your desk and you didn't finish answering the questions, then the status of your filing of your form set will be called incomplete. Makes sense, right? So completed to delivered to e-filed. So right now I've got a completed form set. If there are any fees for that jurisdiction and your filing scenario, they'll show here, and it's to the penny. Now in this situation, you'll see an area called Your Completed Forms. This is where AZTurboCourt will show you any documents that we're generating for you on your behalf. In this particular filing scenario, there are no documents that are being generated by AZTurboCourt that are going to be filed with the court. We do, however, create this simple summary sheet. You do not need this. It's just for your courtesy if you would like to have it. So let me just very quickly show it to you. I'll click the view link next to it here on the right. It comes up as, it's a PDF. And so it's showing you your jurisdiction, your case number, your form set number, filing attorney's information, who you're filing on behalf of here, and your main document, okay? So if you want to print this or save it to your hard drive or your network drive, you can, or you can simply disregard it as not needed, okay? So I'll just go ahead and close that. But here, you've got the attach your document section, and that's where you're going to attach your documents, okay? And so you said in the short interview that you're going to be attaching an affidavit of a person. Great, so there's your required placeholder. You need to attach that particular document. And so to do so, off to the right, you simply click the attach link. And so we already know the document type. This is a document that the Penal system is aware of, so they're not going to have any delays in consuming that kind of a document. And so you're going to provide a title or description. And remember that when you're filing into the All Other Counties group or PEMA, each document can have a title or description up to 100 characters. But when you're filing into Maricopa, your documents can have up to 255 character titles. So really long. Otherwise, it's 100 characters everywhere else. Okay, so you want to provide a nice, meaningful title there. For the sake of time, I'm just going to call this my affidavit. Really bad name, don't use that. And here to attach it, I'm simply going to click Choose File, find the document that I've created. There's my affidavit. And there it is. And do note that when you're on this screen, it's going to show you the allowed file types for this particular type of document. When you're filing into Arizona's General Civil Superior Courts, most of the time, these are the 3 file types that you can attach. Now, there are some differences occasionally. I'll actually show you one scenario where it's a little bit different. But the key here is simply take note of what your allowed file types are for your documents. And as I said, most of the time it's these 3 file types. The other thing that you'll do on this screen when you're attaching a main document, not a supporting document, but any of your main documents, is you have a simple yes/no question. Does this particular main document request or require a judicial ruling or decision, right? So if you're filing a motion, for example, you're going to say yes, right? If I'm filing a letter, an affidavit, for example, I'm going to say no. Now, the judge, of course, is going to have access to this document, but I don't need the judge to specifically make, a decision on this particular document, for example, right? And so when I'm ready, I'll click Save, and AZTurboCourt will analyze this document and make sure that it passes the requirements that the court needs. And it did, and so great, there it is, my affidavit. Now, if you were to, for example, take a WordPerfect document and simply rename it .docx, it's going to get rejected here. We won't allow you to attach that because we know the court system won't be able to consume it, and then they'll reject your filing, right? So again, we're doing everything we can up front to alleviate those possibilities. Now, we can, of course, guarantee that the court won't find some reason to reject the filing, right? That's always a possibility. But we do everything we can in knowing exactly what they need and how they need their filings to model that. So again, you follow along with what's on screen, and you shouldn't go wrong for that jurisdiction. All right, so I've just attached that affidavit. If I want, I can click the view link, and that will open it up so I can make sure that I attach the correct version of my document, for example. And if I didn't, oh boy, that was the previous version. I got to replace that. You can simply click what is now the edit link. And when I do that, it just brings me to the exact same screen. I can, of course, change my title or description if I want. And if I want to replace that file, I simply choose a different file. We'll simply remove that previous one and replace it with the new one that you've attached. Okay? All right, you'll notice that you can attach supporting documents to this main document, to this affidavit. In fact, you can attach up to 25 supporting documents to that one main document. And to attach a supporting document, once again, you simply click the attach link. Here is another area where there's a very important difference between the way the All Other Counties group does things and the way Pima and Maricopa do things. Okay, so please pay attention to this. It's very important. So I'll go ahead and click Attach as a supporting document. And again, I'm filing into PNAL, which is part of the All Other Counties group right now. And so the system knows that you're filing a supporting document to the affidavit, and you get to indicate what kind of supporting document you're attaching. It could be just a generic supporting document, which is essentially pretty much anything that you're needing to within the limits of what the court will accept, or a proposed hearing, a proposed judgment, or a proposed order. Okay? So I could say just a regular supporting document, and I'll just call it Exhibit A, for example. Once again, choose my file, find my document. Give it a pause here. There we go. Okay, Exhibit A. Okay, click Save. Processing that, making sure it's good, and there you go. There's my first supporting document. And you can see it's visually connected and attached as a supporting document. The court will see it this way as well, or similar to that relationship. And I can attach now up to 24 more supporting documents. Okay, so we'll give you a running total. Okay, and I can keep doing that. So let me pause here, and I'm going to switch now back to this filing scenario in Pima to show you the difference when you're attaching supporting documents in a Pima case. And it's going to be the same in Maricopa, by the way, as Pima. So let's switch now back to Pima. So there's my affidavit. Clicking Next. So everything here is quite similar. It's a completed form set. There are some fees, that summary sheet, a placeholder for my affidavit. Let's get rid of that one I previously attached. Do that again. Choose my file. No, I don't need a ruling on that. Okay, so there's my affidavit, and I have up to 25 supporting documents. So I'm going to click Attach. Here I am in PIMA. And notice that the only document type for a supporting document is a generic supporting document. No proposed judgment, proposed notice of hearing, proposed order. And you'll see, very bold warning here, do not attach these types of documents as a supporting document. So here's a very important distinction in terms of the way PIMA and Maricopa do things versus the All Other Counties group. In the All Other Counties group, these proposed document types need to be attached as supporting documents. Okay? In PIMA and Maricopa, you attach those document types, proposed orders, for example, as main documents. It's the reverse. Okay? You can't attach these documents in PIMA and Maricopa as supporting documents. Right? Just as when you're in the All Other Counties group, you can't attach a proposed order as a main document. Their system won't consume it that way, and they'll reject your filing. Okay, so they are exact opposites of one another. So in the All Other Counties group, the proposed document types need to be supporting documents. In PIMA and Maricopa, these proposed document types need to be main documents. And I'll show you how you would do that in a PIMA filing. Okay, so let me just go ahead and attach this supporting document. Choose my file. Save. Okay, so there we go. So here I am filing some additional documents into a case in PIMA, and I have a proposed order. So how do I attach that? Well, as I mentioned, you can attach up to 6 main documents in a PIMA filing. So my first main document is whatever I indicated in my interview, but I have up to 5 more documents, main documents, that I can attach. Okay, and so I'll go to this additional documents section where I'm attaching my documents. I'll click the attach link. And this is where I can attach a proposed order. Okay, it's going to become a main document, but I can attach it. I can attach that proposed order. I can attach that proposed judgment, that proposed notice of hearing. But they have to be one of those 5 additional main documents, because PIMA can't consume it as a supporting document. Okay, so that's how you would do that in PIMA. All right. And you notice, by the way, that when you're attaching other main documents, you've got a long list here of other document types, right? So this is where, as I said, you could, in a single filing, attach 6 motions if you wanted to, or 3 motions, an affidavit, a report, and a notice, right? Like any combination of these main document types, you can attach up to 6 in a single filing. And again, I highly recommend you do that. It's just much easier to track. And you can do this as well in the All Other Counties group. It's only in Maricopa at this moment in time where you're limited to just 1 main document per filing. Now, they are intending to expand that functionality at some point in the future. We'll certainly make it available to you as soon as they do. We just don't know what their time frame is for that. Okay, so currently in Maricopa, you're limited to just 1. So, for example, if this was a Maricopa filing, you would not see this. Right? You wouldn't see this attached additional documents. It's just going to be your 1 main document from that interview. And again, as I said, if you had another motion, you'd just go through the process and file that motion, the second motion. Okay, but everywhere else you can attach up to 6 main documents per filing. Okay, so let's go back to our penal filing. Switch back there now. And so I've had my affidavit, my supporting document. I could attach other supporting documents again, right? Multiple supporting documents, or maybe I had that 1 exhibit and now a proposed order, whatever it might be, right? And here too, I can attach 5 more main documents. And so I'll click on the attach link there. And once again, this list probably looks very similar to what you just saw in PIMA, but it's not. It's actually slightly different. And so, rule of thumb, follow along with what's presented to you on screen, okay? And then the document type, and these are notices that are specific to the All Other Counties group, okay? And then you'd provide your title or description. Put your title or description, select your file, indicate whether it needs a judicial ruling or decision, and then attach it. Okay. So there you go. That's the variation in the exact same filing scenario when you're filing into the All Other Counties group. The order of the questions is a little bit different. The placement of those questions is a little bit different. It's still a 60-second process, but as I said, you'll see slightly different screens and placement of questions. And then, very importantly, in the attaching of your documents, if you've got a proposed document type, or proposed order, proposed judgment, proposed notice of hearing, the really important distinction is that in the All Other Counties group, those need to be supporting documents, whereas in Pima and Maricopa, those will be main documents. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look now at a slightly more involved subsequent filing scenario in the All Other Counties group. Now, this might be applicable as well in Pima or Maricopa, but I'll just use the All Other Counties group to show it to you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find another filing here that I set up to show you this. This is a really helpful search screen, by the way, for you to access all of your filings. I'll show you that in a bit. Okay, yeah, that's the one I want. So in this filing scenario, I'm going to be filing into Pinal again. But again, it could be any of the counties that are part of the All Other Counties group. So they all share the same rules and process. In this scenario, it is my first appearance, and I am filing my initial answer. And so it's still a subsequent filing into an existing case, but because I'm answering the questions a little bit differently, we know that the court has some additional requirements and rules. Once again, we model that to make sure that you follow them. Okay, so just follow along with what's presented to you on screen in this situation, and again, you shouldn't go wrong. So let's just back up here and start from the beginning. I'm filing in Pinal. And in this scenario, I'm filing into an existing case. There's my case number. I click Next. It finds it, and so I click Next again. And I'm looking at this and saying, yes, that is my case. Now, let me just explain what's happening here in this filing scenario. We've got Bank of America versus the Santiagos. And we've got one attorney on record right now. Vincent is not me in this filing scenario, so I'm going to, let's just assume that Vincent represents Bank of America. They've done their initial filing suing my clients, and I'm now responding for the first time on this case on behalf of my clients. So I'm not yet in the court's system, okay? So I'm going to click Next, and this might also be applicable if you were, for example, recently appointed as a mediator or as an arbitrator, right? You may not be included yet in the list here. Okay, so, but that is my case, so I'm clicking Next. So in this scenario, I'm saying I'm not on the list yet. That's okay. Click Next. And so they ask, okay, so who are you? It's important for you to note that all of this information I did not type, okay? We pull that automatically from your AZTurboCourt profile. So in your profile, you're going to have all of this information, including your bar number, so you don't have to keep typing it each time, right? It's just going to be automatically populated for you. We're also going to show you your firm's current mailing address. So now where does that come from? Well, that's not actually managed by you as an individual filer. That's managed at your firm's company-wide level. And so there is going to be somebody or several people potentially that are given the role of company administrator for your AZTurboCourt account, for your firm's AZTurboCourt account, and they're the ones that maintain the firm's main mailing address, okay? But we know that, and so we're going to show it to you here so you don't have to type it. Because again, very often AZTurboCourt is going to generate documents for you. The header of those documents is going to provide all of your contact information, and we are doing everything we can to alleviate you having to type all of that, okay? Saves you time. It also prevents the possibility of you mistyping it, right? And then it potentially causes problems down the road. So we want to alleviate those scenarios. So on this screen, the only thing that I'm doing is answering a simple yes/no question. Is that my current mailing address? If it is, great. I just say yes and let's move on. If it's not, that's actually okay. If I have a separate mailing address, that's fine. I'll click no, and then I'll proceed with providing my separate mailing address. But yeah, I work at the main office or whatever. That's the one I use, and so we're good there. I'll just say yes. I click next, and they need to know, who do you represent? And so I'm going to check one or several boxes, right? We're going to show you everybody that's already listed in the case. You could, again, say they're not on the list, and you could then go through the process of adding another party if you want. Okay, so AZTurboCourt will allow you to do that. Okay, so I'm going to say I represent both of the Santiagos. Have they previously paid their appearance fee? No. This is our first time filing. Do we have an order waiving fees? No. So I'm going to leave that unchecked. So I'm simply checking that I represent Santiagos and we haven't paid our appearance fee yet. Now, before I click next to proceed, let me just go back for a moment and show you a scenario when you have been appointed as a mediator or an arbitrator, and this is your first time filing on the case. So from this very same screen, when you indicate I'm not on the list yet, you'll see this checkbox if you've been appointed by the court to participate in this case. If you check the box, you then get a drop-down list, and you get to indicate what your role is. Okay? And so when I click next, I'm going to then provide my attorney information. Again, it's all going to be there for me. But notice that there's no question about who do you represent. That is not applicable in this situation, right? I'm a court-appointed mediator. We know that, and so we're not going to ask you that question. And so this is showing you a bit of the dynamic nature, a simple version of it, but AZTurboCourt is like sort of behind the scenes is extraordinarily dynamic. We know exactly what the court needs in each situation, and so you're only going to see those things that are applicable based on the way you're responding to the previous questions. Okay, so when you're doing a filing in Penal this week on a particular case, right? And then next week you're filing in the same case, you may see some different screens or different questions because the nature of your filing is such that the court needs additional information, for example, okay? So again, rule of thumb, just follow along on screen. All right, so I'm going to uncheck that and say, no, I'm just a regular private attorney. I'm simply not on the list yet. That's me, yes. That's my mailing address, great. I represent the Santiagos. No, we haven't paid our appearance fee yet. I click next. Okay, and so here we are once again. What's your main document? And in theory, I could say I'm starting off with an affidavit of some sort, right? And that's it, right? You'll see here on the left-hand side, this is where you're seeing all the pages for this section. There's no other questions here. There's no other pages, right? I'm done. It's our first appearance, and I'm filing an affidavit. Okay. But what happens when I'm filing some sort of an answer? And so here are my choices. I'm going to say an answer with a counterclaim. Now, all of a sudden, you see that there are some additional questions, and that's because the court has additional requirements. All right. So now when I click next, I have some additional questions. The court is asking, has a certificate of compulsory arbitration been filed? A certificate of compulsory arbitration is part of a general civil case. Now, just so you know, let me just pause here for a moment. PEMA used to use this certificate, but now they've switched to something called the FAST-STAR certificate. So we're going to take you through this same process in PEMA, but we're actually going to be asking you whether or not a FAST-STAR certificate has been filed, okay? Because we know that that's what they're using now, okay? So here I am in the all other counties group, and per this rule, they're asking about this certificate of compulsory arbitration. So has one been filed in the case? You can say yes, and then we'll have some follow-up questions. You can say no, and then answer this follow-up question, which is, do you want one? Do you want AZTurboCourt to generate it for you? Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and say yes, one has already been filed. Opposing counsel did already file that certificate. Maybe they went through AZTurboCourt and then it automatically creates it for them. All right, so fine, they filed one. I click next. Now I get to tell the court how I feel about that. Opposing counsel, in their filing of the certificate of compulsory arbitration, they indicated that they either thought the case is or is not subject to compulsory arbitration. Okay? And I then get to say whether or not I agree or disagree with that assessment. All right, so here are my 4 options. And so in this scenario, what I'm saying is that opposing counsel indicated that they think the case is subject to compulsory arbitration. And what I'm saying is I do not agree with that. And then I provide my reasons. And the reasons in this situation is that we're filing a counterclaim, and our counterclaim exceeds the compulsory arbitration limits, for example. Right? Or I could say other and provide a reason, or I can select several of these choices here. Okay? Notice that there's an FAQ regarding cases that are subject to compulsory arbitration, so you could read that if you needed to. These links all take you to that same FAQ. Okay? What's going to happen now is that AZTurboCourt is going to generate for you, in this situation where I don't agree with what opposing counsel has said, we're going to generate a controverting certificate for you. So when I click next, we're going to generate a controverting certificate of compulsory arbitration, and on this screen you're simply checking the box for your digital signature. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and embed your name in this statement. This is going to be the statement for your digital signature on that particular certificate, along with your reasons. Okay? So that all happened as a result of me saying I'm filing an answer, as opposed to some other document type, because we know the court needs this in this filing scenario. Okay? And then at that point, I'm done. And so if I click next, give AZTurboCourt a moment to analyze all of that and do its thing. Okay. So once again, I've got a completed filing, a completed form set. Notice I've got some additional fees because that's my first appearance fee based on PNAL's fee schedule. Notice also that in this situation, AZTurboCourt generated 2 documents that are going to be filed with the court in this filing. The first appearance notice, because we indicated this is our first appearance, and that controverting certificate. So if you were to click on the view link, you'll just see whatever gets generated that's going to be sent, and then the controverting certificate. There you go. There's your digital signature with a /S/. By the way, if you're ever generating your own documents that you're going to be attaching that require a signature, because it's digital, you need to make sure you include the /S/ after your name. That's Arizona's way of indicating this is a digitally signed document, and if you leave that out, they'll reject it. Okay, so just an important heads up there. I'll go ahead and close that one. So those 2 documents are already included in my filing. I don't need to attach them. Then I've got my answer and counterclaim, which I'm going to attach, supporting documents, if any, to that answer and counterclaim, and again, up to 5 more main documents if I want to. Okay? So before we actually proceed with submitting these filings, I want to go back, click Review and Edit Your Answers. You can click Review, Edit Your Answers at any time prior to submitting it to the court, where you can do exactly that, review and change any of your answers. By the way, the other nice thing that happens with in AZTurboCourt is if you're looking for a particular question to review or change, you don't have to hit the previous or the next button a bunch of times to find what you're looking for. Once you've quickly walked through the interview for the first time and everything is there, now you can just jump into any section. right? I could just jump into the filer information section and click on the represented parties screen and make a change, right? Or I can jump into that action section and change any of these, right? Just go right to the page that I want. So it's very quick, easy navigation to what you're needing to do. All right, so I want to talk about subpoenas. And, oh, and by the way, you'll notice here on this screen, it's reiterated. You saw it on PIMA, but I want to just show it to you when you're filing into the All Other Counties group. It's reiterated here about that proposed orders, proposed judgments, and proposed notices of hearing cannot be main documents. There's an FAQ about that talks about it as well. Okay, so what do you do if you're needing to file a proposed order in one of your All Other Counties cases? So it can't be a main document, right? So you need to file something else as your main document, and then have these documents be a supporting document to that main document. So here are a couple of possible options for you. You could indicate that your main document is a notice, and in the All Other Counties group, they've specifically set up notice types for this. Okay, notice of filing, proposed order, or notice of filing, proposed judgment. Okay, so in this scenario, the notice is my main document, and I'll go ahead and attach the proposed order as a supporting document to that notice. And so that's how I would file my proposed order. That would be one option. Another option could be you're filing a motion of some sort, right? Motion to amend the judgment, for example. And so the motion is your main document, and my proposed judgment becomes the supporting document. Okay, so there's a variety of ways that you can do that. Point being is that your main document cannot be one of these. You have to have something else as your main document, and these would then become the supporting document. Okay? All right, so back to this situation where we were filing an answer. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you noticed that, but if I'm filing just like a regular answer or an answer with a counterclaim, I'm getting these questions. Notice that when I'm filing a simple amended answer, I don't have those questions anymore. Okay? So, like I said, it really is precise about what the court needs in each filing scenario. Okay, so back to my answer and counterclaim. Now, let's talk about subpoenas. In Arizona, they have a very precise formatting requirement for subpoenas. And if you submit a subpoena, if you give them a subpoena to be issued that doesn't meet that requirement, they'll reject it. Okay. The other thing is that there are additional fees associated with having a subpoena issued. And so in every county, with the exception of Maricopa, but this applies now to PIMA, as well as all of the other counties in the All Other Counties group, when you're needing to have a subpoena issued, you're going to do that through AZTurboCourt, and AZTurboCourt is going to generate the subpoena for you. Okay, that's the way those courts have set things up. Now, if you're in a Maricopa case and you need to have a subpoena issued, at this point in time, you'll do it the traditional method, basically via paper. Okay, and again, Maricopa will be moving to this functionality in the future as well. Again, we just don't know what their timing is. So, but in every other county, if you're needing a subpoena issued, you'll have AZTurboCourt generated for you. And what will happen is you'll indicate that you're needing a subpoena, you'll answer some questions, and we'll actually generate the document for you. So let me show you that, because once again, there's a difference in the way PIMA does this versus the All Other Counties group. So I'm going to switch now back to PIMA. Okay, so here we are back in PIMA. I'll click Review, Edit My Answers. Give it a moment to reload that. Okay. So I'm going to just jump right into that third section where I'm selecting my main document. In PIMA, when you need to have a subpoena issued, it has to be your #1 main document. That's what you have to select here as your main document. Now remember, you're still going to be able to attach 5 more main documents. So if you've got other motions or anything else, you can still attach them as well. But the subpoena has to be this #1 main document. And so if you scroll down this list of document types, document categories, you'll see system-generated document, the precipice. So that's what you're going to need to select. And then you've got a couple of options here, summons or subpoena, and I'm going to select subpoena. Okay? At that point, when I click next, you're going to get some additional questions. And this is PIMA and all of the counties group. They do this pretty similarly. It's a little bit different, but pretty similarly. And so you can have a subpoena issued for attendance of witnesses at a hearing or trial, for taking depositions, or for producing evidence or inspecting of premises. And you can select one or all 3 of those, or any combination of them. Okay? But whichever checkbox or checkboxes you check, then the corresponding fields for that checkbox become required. That's why you'll sometimes see a gray asterisk. It's conditionally required based on whether or not you've indicated something prior. So, for example, these fields are not required because I'm not asking for it for attendance of witnesses. But I said I want this subpoena for taking a depo, and so these fields now I need to fill out. Okay? There's also a yes/no question per this Rule 64.1, whether or not you want to have this language added to the subpoena that we're going to be generating for you. Okay? So it's a simple yes/no question. If you say yes, we'll go ahead and include this language in the subpoena. If you say no, we won't add it to the subpoena. Okay? And then the way that PIMA does this is they ask you for information about who the subpoena is going to be issued to on a separate screen here, and then just confirming the attorney information that needs to appear on that subpoena. Okay? And then we'll generate the subpoena for you, whatever the additional fees are, and because it's a PIMA filing, it's going to be the #1 main document. It'll already be created for you, but you can still attach up to 5 more main documents. Now, you may not actually want to, and I'll explain that in a little bit later on in a moment when we talk about e-service, but you can. Even though the subpoena is generated for you, you can still attach up to 5 more main documents. Okay? And I'm going to go back to my main document selection and just go back to that regular affidavit. Okay, so that's the PIMA approach. It has to be a main document, so you would select the precipice subpoena. Okay, now switching over once again to the All Other Counties group. So in the All Other Counties group, you could, if you wanted to, say the subpoena is my main document, and then once again you would get those questions. Like I said, it's a little bit different because they combine things on one screen. Here's the name of the person, entity, and so forth, whether or not you want the additional language, but it's almost identical. Okay? So you could say, yeah, my subpoena is my #1 main document, and then I'll attach some other documents as well, or maybe I won't. Okay? But you have an additional option when you're filing into the All Other Counties group. I could say, hey, this is still my first appearance, and we're filing our answer now, and I also want you to generate a subpoena for me. Okay, so you have a little bit more options here when you're filing into the All Other Counties group. All right, and if I were to proceed, then I would see the new questions about the subpoena. But I'll leave that unchecked and just say no, just the regular answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and submit one of these filings, make our payment, and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to switch back over to PIMA actually to show you this. So I set an affidavit. There it is. I've already attached it. I've got a supporting document, and yeah, I'm not going to attach anything else. I'll just say, yeah, that's all I need to file right now. All right, so when you're filing into an existing case, you have 2 different options for how you want to file into the court. You can choose just straight e-filing, where we'll just electronically submit your documents to the court, or you can choose e-filing with e-service. Arizona, somewhat recently, allowed for e-service on exist when you're filing into an existing case. Our AZTurboCourt supports eService. We have a really robust eService functionality. And so I want to quickly walk you through that because it's incredibly efficient way of doing service now. And so in the traditional world of service, whatever documents you're filing with the court, right, you file them, you get them stamped, you get copies, and then you make copies for whomever you need to serve, right? So whether that's one person or half a dozen people, whatever that is. And so then you're going to make those copies, stuff them in an envelope, address the envelope, and have somebody serve them on those parties, right? Somebody from within your own firm or an outside service, whatever that might be. And then they're going to have proof of service, which they're going to bring back to you. So you now have that, so you can show it to the court. You've met your obligation for service. Okay, that's the traditional way of doing service. And you no longer have to do any of that anymore. Now, in the realm of eService in Arizona, the only thing you need to do to serve the other parties is to provide us with their name and email address. And AZTurboCourt will take care of everything from that point forward. It's all going to be trackable. It meets your obligation for service. It's really efficient. And so I just want to walk you through that. Okay, so I've attached my documents. I click Next. And because I said I wanted to do eService, I'm going to prepare my eService recipient list. Who am I going to be eServing? Now, this is a case, once again, that I've already been filing on. I've already been submitting filings on this case. I've already been eServing. And so it shows you here who I've been eServing. Okay, so that's one thing that is super efficient, is that you only have to create your eService recipient list one time for this case. And then AZTurboCourt will remember it for you going forward. Okay, so again, whether that's one person or two or 20 on a huge case, it really doesn't matter. Just create this eService recipient list once. And so here I am, I've got another filing. I'm filing some affidavits. I want to use eService again. And there's nothing really more for me to do here. Like, yeah, those are all the folks I've been eServing. Let's go ahead and click Submit. Let's move on. But if this is the very first time you're filing in this case, we won't have this group of people, right? So we don't know who you want to serve. And so let me just remove them and just show you what you'll see here. Blank table. We don't know who you want to serve yet, so you tell us who's going to be served. And again, you only do this one time. And so the way you add people to your eService recipient list, well, you've got a couple of options. You could click Add New Recipient manually, and we'll simply provide you with a blank row. Provide the person's name, their email address, and that's it. That third column is optional. If you want to provide any details about who this person is, that's for yourself. That's not for the courts. Okay? If you wanted, you could click that link again and just get another blank row. Okay? Another way you could add people to the eService recipient list is to look them up in your global eService address book. Well, what is that? Well, anytime you are filing through AZTurboCourt and you're using eService, regardless of what case it's on, we will automatically add each person's name and email address to your global eService address book. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that John Smith is opposing counsel on this case, and you're eServing him. And 6 months later, you wind up facing him on another case, unrelated. You don't remember his email address. That's okay. You don't need to. You can simply look him up. So if I click that second link, I could look him up based on a portion of his name, a portion of his email address, or I could even leave both fields blank and just say, just show me everybody I've got on my eService recipient list. Okay? And as I'm going through this, I can look for who I want to eServe. All right? And I can select one. I could select several. And when I'm done, I'll click Add Selected. And there they are. Okay? And I got that empty row. I'll just click Remove to get rid of it. Okay, so there it is. I'm ready to go. What's going to happen is that when I click Submit and make my payment, and it successfully goes to the court, the moment that that happens and the status of this filing goes from completed to delivered, all of these folks are going to be automatically emailed. And in that email is going to be a link that will take them to the documents that I just filed with the court. I've now served them. I've met my obligation for service. There's nothing more I need to do. All I did was provide a name and an email address. And I'll show you how we can verify it. Okay, obviously, that's very important. And I'll show you how that all works. Okay? Now, if you remember, when I first came to this screen, there was already a list of people that were here, right? So, again, they were there because I've already been filing on this case. I've already been e-serving, and AZTurboCourt simply remembers it for me, and so I don't have to keep adding them each time, right? And if you, for any reason, mistakenly deleted somebody that was previously being e-served, you know, like if you click the remove button and you're like, oh my God, I removed the wrong person and I don't remember who they were, that's okay, because that's what this third link is for. This third link is going to show you the last set of people that were e-served on this case by you. Okay, so you don't have to remember. So if I click on that third link, it's going to show me all of the folks I've been e-serving on this case. And I can just say, yeah, let's put them back into this filing. And we're not going to send the same person more than one email. So we're not going to add their email, you know, twice. Okay. So there they are. They're back in there. Let me get rid of John Doe. I don't need him anymore. There. So there we go. We've got John Smith and Martha Wilson, Mary Travers, Michael Hedges, Roger Adams, and Stephen Kimmelman. That's me. Okay. So once I submit this filing, everybody here is going to be emailed. Okay. Now, I mentioned that AZTurboCourt saves this list for you, right? So you only have to create it once, and then it's there forever. And so all of your other filings on this case, the e-service recipient list is there, ready to go. But it doesn't just save it for you. It actually saves it for anybody else in your firm that's working on this case. This is a shared e-service recipient list. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that Ellen down the hall from me is really lead attorney on this case. She's been filing on the case, she's been e-serving, and I've recently been added to the case. And Ellen asked me to file some affidavits and whatever else, a motion. And so here I am, I'm using AZTurboCourt. She said, go ahead and use e-service. It's you know, it's super efficient, great. I come to this screen, and sure enough, there's all the folks that Ellen has been e-serving. She doesn't even have to tell me who I need to serve, right? Because it's a shared e-service list. And if I were to make any changes to this list, such as adding John Smith or, you know, updating Mary Travers' email address because she contacted me and said, hey, I've changed my email address, please update it for e-service. Great, I'll go ahead and, you know, update it here. I don't have to tell Ellen that I did that, right? Because the next time that she goes to file on this case, it's a shared e-service list. All of the things that I've made, that I've changed here, are populated throughout our firm for this case, and so she's going to go ahead and just give everybody the most updated, send it to the most updated email addresses. Okay, so like I said, it's a very, very efficient way of doing service. Okay, let's go ahead and submit this filing. I'm going to click submit, and because there's a fee required, we're going to take you to the company that Arizona uses to process payments, and that's a company called AZTurboCourt. And that's where we are right now. So we're also connected live with AZTurboCourt, and this is their testing environment as well. But again, this is very similar to what you'll encounter in production. And so we know where it's being filed into. There's going to be a breakdown of whatever fees there are. Here's your form set number, and now you're going to make your payment through AZTurboCourt. And your options are a credit card or a checking or savings account. And so let's just say I were to select the checking savings account tab. I'm going to enter my routing number, the account number, and then choose the account type that AZTurboCourt gives me, checking, savings, corporate, which is essentially like corporate checking or corporate savings. You can optionally provide a check number if that's applicable. And then you're going to provide the billing address for that particular bank account. And that bank account is going to be either under an organization's name or a person, right? That might be your checking account, for example, right? And then you provide your first and last name, whatever that might be, and the billing information for that bank account. Now, if this is your bank account, then save yourself some time by clicking the Same as Filer's Information checkbox, and AZTurboCourt will grab your profile information from AZTurboCourt. Now, if it's slightly different for your checking account, you can, of course, edit here accordingly, but it's going to, pre-populate a lot of fields here and speed up the process for you. Okay. Another option is to pay with a credit card. And so in that situation, you're going to indicate your card type that AZTurboCourt makes available to you. And then you're going to provide your card number. They've actually given me some credit card numbers here, so I'm going to go ahead and try one of these. Don't know if these are actually going to work, but we'll give it a shot. Then the security code, if there is one, the expiration date, okay? And at this point, I'm going to press Submit Payment. Now, if for any reason the payment doesn't go through, you'll stay here on this screen. AZTurboCourt will show you a red message, and you'll try again. If the payment is successful, then AZTurboCourt will return you right away to AZTurboCourt. So let me see if this credit card will actually work, and I'll click Submit Payment. Nope, not that one. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, give it one more try here. That's too bad. All right, I'm going to give it one more try, and then we'll take another approach. Okay, good. All right. That's too bad. Okay. All right, so your other option. Okay, so let me just briefly tell you what's going to happen here. You'd provide your new payment information, and assuming it's a good credit card, like I said, you'll then be taken back to AZTurboCourt. And because it's going, in that scenario, it's a new credit card or a new bank account that you provided, when you return to AZTurboCourt, you're going to have the option in AZTurboCourt to save that payment method for future use in AZTurboCourt. Okay, and to do so, you would simply provide it with what we call a nickname. Okay, so anytime, if you've done any kind of online shopping, you're probably familiar with this functionality, but let me just briefly explain the nature of the interaction between AZTurboCourt and AZTurboCourt, because that's important for you to understand. So AZTurboCourt is where your payment information is securely stored, right? So we're not going to know your bank routing number and your bank account number or your credit card number. I think what we get is the last 4 digits, right, and the expiration date, right? But nothing that we can use beyond that. So AZTurboCourt is where it's all stored, and what they do is they pass to us a key code for that particular payment method, which is completely meaningless to us. And if you decide that you want to save that for future use for other AZTurboCourt filings, then you give it a nickname. That nickname is associated with that key code, so the next time you use that payment method here at AZTurboCourt, they look up the underlying key code, and they say, oh yeah, we know what credit card that is, and then they process it, right? Okay, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go to my Saved Payment tab, and here are all of my saved payment methods. Now, you're not going to have this many probably, but here's one called Karina's Newer MC 1122, and hopefully that credit card is still good. What's AZTurboCourt doing? I wonder if they're having problems right now. Hopefully not. Okay, so Karina's Newer MC, and let's go ahead and submit that payment. It's possible AZTurboCourt's test system is also like having some issues, but hopefully this will work. Oh, it's not. Okay, so I think their test environment is a little screwy. Okay, well, in that case, I'm just going to manually switch back to AZTurboCourt, and what I'm going to do is, let's see here, I'm going to hit return to e-filing application. Okay, so it says your payment's failed. This is where, assuming payment was successful, it would return you to, and it will say your payment was successful. And once payment was successful, the status of your filing will have changed from completed to delivered. And delivered will tell you that the court now has your filing. So what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can find a filing that has already been delivered. Yeah, there's one. So let me just, we'll go ahead and simulate this. Okay. So let's pretend that this is the filing that we just delivered. It actually is on the same case, by the way, so it's going to be quite similar. And made my payment successfully through AZTurboCourt. They returned us to that screen you just saw, and then I said, okay, let me take a look at this filing. And so here I am, I filed an affidavit. And there's a messages tab. And so these are these internal messages that are always coming to you once you've successfully delivered your filing to the court. So these are essentially status updates. So the very first one you're going to see is something like this. Thanks for submitting your forms. You'll be notified when they've been accepted. Each court has their own messaging, so we just present to you what they give us. And I'll mark that as being read. I see there's other messages here as well. There's also a payments tab. And so this is showing me the transaction date and time, the transaction number that I got from AZTurboCourt, and a link to the payment details. So this is very helpful. It's showing you all the case type, jurisdiction, your form set number, case number, a keyword matter number if you used it. I'll talk about that in a moment. The case name, basically, that was generated, the details about your payment method, and see, this was a saved payment method, and the breakdown of the fees. And so I could print a hard copy of this, or I could click this print link and then just save it as a PDF so that I now have a digital copy of my receipt, right? And save it to my hard drive or my network drive. So that payment details is always available to you as well. And because I chose e-service, I have an e-service tab. And so this is showing me all of the folks that I e-served, okay? And these folks really were sent an email. In fact, you can see here, it was earlier today at 2:24, okay? And so each one of these folks were sent an email. The email included a link to my documents that I just filed with the court. Now, you'll see here, status shows pending, which means none of them have actually opened the email and accessed my document, okay? And that's fine. It's not my responsibility that they do that. It's not my obligation. I've already met my obligation for service by doing this, by sending it to them. So just as in the paper world, when you give them the envelope of documents and you've got your proof of service, what they do with that envelope, you don't really care, right? It's not part of your obligation for meeting service, whether they open it or not, right? You've met your obligation by giving it to them and having that proof of service. This, showing the date and time that it was successfully sent, that is your proof of service, and this is valid in Arizona. Because if for any reason their email server was not able to receive this filing, you would not see this here. You would see some sort of an error message, okay? So this effectively tells us that their email server has this email. Now, they cannot claim, I mean, they can claim it if they want, that they never got it, but that will not hold up in court. Okay, the Arizona courts can also see this information. Okay, so if it went into their spam folder, so be it. If they inadvertently deleted it, so be it. If if my dog ate the envelope, so be it. I've met my obligation for service. Okay, so this is why e-service is really efficient. Now, in the world of e-service, though, you actually do have a lot more capabilities and functionality than you do in the paper world. So, for example, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Roger is opposing counsel, and you've been talking with him, and he calls you up and said, "Stephen, I thought you said you were going to file those motions on Friday," and you said you did. And this is now, let's say, Monday afternoon, and he says, "I didn't get the e-service like you normally send." Now, maybe he inadvertently deleted it. Maybe it went into a spam folder for some reason. Who knows? Again, not your responsibility, because you basically gave him the envelope, if you will. You've sent it to him. But because it is the electronic world, if you wanted to, you could resend him that e-service email. So I would just check his name and click resend it. Give it a moment to do that. And sure enough, it was resent at a different date and time. And if I click on the history link, it'll show me all of that. Going back to the previous screen, I just click on this button here in the top right corner. Okay. The other thing that I could do is I could add new people to the e-service recipient list for this filing, even after I've already delivered it to the court. In fact, the court might have already processed this. It might already say that it's e-filed. I could still e-serve somebody new. Roger calls up and says, "Hey, by the way, I added somebody to our team. Would you mind e-serving him those motions also?" Sure. Okay. Provide their name and email address, click send, and Paul Smith was now just e-served. And not only was Paul Smith just e-served, but he's also now part of the e-service recipient list. The next time I go to file on this case, I don't need to remember to include Paul Smith. I don't need to tell Ellen down the hall, "Oh, by the way, we have somebody new on the e-service recipient list that we need to serve." Right? It's going to be there for her. Okay? So it's really super efficient. Now, what if you get e-served? Because more and more folks in Arizona are using AZTurboCourt, and they may start e-serving you. So what is that like? Well, there's a couple different ways you're going to be notified of e-service. One is you're going to get an email. And so let me just switch over to one of the email boxes here. So let's just pretend that this is your email inbox. If you get e-served by opposing counsel or by anybody on a case, you're going to see something like this, AZTurboCourt e-service notification. When you open that email, this is what you're going to see. Case number, case name, jurisdiction, their form set number, and a link. And when you click on that link, it's going to take you to the documents that they just filed with the court. No more paper. You can view them on screen. You can print them if you want to. You can save all of their documents to your hard drive or your network drive, right? But it's basically a link to their documents. Okay? Now, what happens is that when you open up this email and you click on this link, if you're already logged into AZTurboCourt, then it's just going to take you to these documents. If you're not currently logged into AZTurboCourt, then when you click on this link, you'll quickly log in, and then you'll be able to go to their documents. The same is true for anybody that you e-serve. Okay, they're going to go through that same process. All right. Now, the other way that you're going to be notified when you're e-served is, I'm going to go to a different person here to show you some other functionality, actually. Okay, just logged in as a different user. So the moment you log in and you're here on your home screen, If you get e-served, whether or not you've looked at your email, you're going to see this. You're going to see this notification right on your home screen the moment you log in that you've been e-served. This is telling me that I've been e-served 7 times that I have not yet looked at those documents. Now, I've actually been e-served a lot more than these 7 times, but I've already looked at their documents. These are 7 new incoming e-service requests. Basically, I've been e-served on 7 different filings. Now, I don't know yet what those are, right? I haven't looked at them. They may be all in the same filing, all in the same case. They may be on separate cases. I don't know yet. But when I click on that number 7, it's going to take me to all of these e-served filings. You'll also notice in the user menu on the left-hand side, a corresponding link served on me, and whatever the number is, it's going to be that same number. Okay, so if I click on that number 7, let's take a look. All right, so apparently I'm involved in an Arizona Supreme Court filing, case rather. And all right, well, they've been filing a whole lot on this Mid-First Bank case. And so if I were to click on View Documents for any of these, and I don't know what these are, all right, and let's just pretend that this was opposing counsel that was filing this, I can now see what they filed, whether it was 1 document or 20 documents, okay? And I can click on the View link, and I can view everything that they just filed with the court. And like I said, I can print them or just save them to my network drive, hard drive, whatever I need to. Notice also that the status of this filing is still delivered, meaning the court hasn't actually processed it. They could, in theory, reject this filing, right? But I've got instant access to opposing counsel's documents. And once, assuming the court does accept this filing and the status goes from delivered to e-filed, then I'll also have access to the conform stamped copies of these documents. Okay, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Let me just go back to my home page here. So, and you'll notice here the number went from 7 to 6. So 6 more filings that I was e-served on that I haven't yet looked at. Okay. Now, you might be curious of, in the world of electronic service, this is some other functionality you have available to you that you don't have available in the world of paper, which is you may have filed several motions at the end of the day on a Friday and e-served, and now it's, Monday afternoon or Tuesday, and you're curious if opposing counsel actually looked at your motions yet. Well, in the world of paper service, there's no way for you to know that. In the world of e-service, you can know that. And so that's what this other link is, check e-service status. I can click on that and search for any of the filings that I've e-served other people on based on a specific form set number, case number, for example, maybe the recipient's email address. I'm just going to go ahead and leave all of these fields blank and just click list. All right, so I've e-served 36 different filings, so I've been doing all sorts of e-serving. I've got multiple pages here, so I'm going to click next and just kind of see what else is there. Pellet filings, right? A lot of different things. So let's take a look at, let's see, I want to find something here that might be more interesting. All right, here's one in Santa Cruz County that's already been e-filed. Let's take a look at that. I have no idea what this is. Click on that form set number, and I can see that it was e-served to 1 person. And notice the status is accepted, which means they've accessed the documents. If I click on the history, it's not only going to show me that they've accessed the documents, it's actually going to show me the date and time that they first viewed them. Okay? So again, it's available to you in the world of e-service that you can check who's actually looking at your documents and when they first looked at them. Okay? All right, so back to my home screen now. I want to show you another important difference between the counties, and that has to do with how and when they make the conform stamped copies available to you once your filing has been accepted, okay? Because they do things differently. The timing is different. And so that's another thing that's really important for you to be aware of. And so let me show you that. Right, I'm actually going to log out as this person. And instead, I'm going to log in. Let's see here. Let me just find the login that I want to show you. Okay. So, again, 3 different approaches: the Pima approach, the Maricopa approach, the all other counties approach. The way and the timing of when they make their conformed stamped copies available to you after they've accepted your filing varies. And so let me show you each of those 3 approaches. So first, I'm going to show you a filing that was accepted in Pima. I'll go ahead and click on that filing. And so what you'll see once the status has gone from delivered to e-filed is, for Pima filings, you'll see additional links that are put off to the right of those view links. And any of the documents that Pima has stamped, you'll see these links. Now, they're not going to stamp every document, right? A lot of the supporting documents typically are not stamped. So you're only going to see the links for the ones that they've actually stamped. And if I were to click on any of these additional links, it'll bring up the stamped version from the court system of that document. And again, I could print it, I could save it to my drives, whatever I need to. And you'll occasionally see multiple links because they actually have multiple stamps in different documents that they've done. Okay? So that is, for this one particular filing, the way that I could access the conformed stamp copies in a Pima filing. Now, let's take a quick look at a Maricopa filing. Okay, so there we go. This is going to be Maricopa. And so the way it's presented to you in a Maricopa filing is we add for them a stamped documents section. And the document that appears in that stamped documents section, when you click on the view link for that, then it will bring up Maricopa's conformed stamped copy of that document. Okay, so that's the way it appears there. Now let's take a look at a filing in one of the all other counties group of one of the counties from the all other counties group. This is in Santa Cruz County. Great. Click on that. All right. So looks like a first appearance and an answer. So you'll notice off to the right of the view link, there's no additional links there. There's also no new section called stamped documents. So how do you access the conformed stamped copies for filings in the all other counties group? Well, the way you do that is you access them through this View Court Case Documents button. This is actually going to give you access to the court's electronic docket for this case. So, in fact, not just these documents, but whatever the court has available in their electronic docket for the case. And so when you click on that button, we're actually going to make a call to their system and say, give us your electronic docket. Now, again, this is not a real case. It's not a full docket. But you get the idea that you're going to have access to these documents, and then any of these documents that have been stamped by the court, the complaint, for example, when I click on it, it's going to bring up the conformed stamped copy from the court system of that document. Okay? So not just the documents from this one particular filing, but this is now their docket. Right? And so that's available through that View Court Case Documents button. So let me just go back to that previous screen. Here's that filing details button here at the top. Let's click on that. Okay, so View Court Case Documents button. This button appears only once your filing has moved to status e-filed. So if I was looking at this filing when it was in status delivered, this button would not be here. But the moment it goes to e-filed, this button will appear. And like I said, that's going to give you access to the docket and whatever they've stamped. And this is true in Maricopa and Pima as well. Okay, in fact, let me just show you that. Go back to that Pima filing, for example. So even though Pima and Maricopa give you access for that filing to these specific documents for the stamped versions, they also give you access to the docket. So all the counties do this through AZTurboCourt. And so now I'm going to ask Pima for their docket on this case. And again, it's not a real docket. But I am pulling it from Pima's system. It's just not a full docket. So we'll give Pima a moment to give us their electronic docket. Okay, so there you go. So just imagine that would be the docket. And, if I were to click on, let's say, this certificate of compulsory arbitration, now not only did I ask the court to give me access to their electronic docket, now I'm saying, give me your version of this document. And so there you go. It's their conformed stamped copy, however it happened to be stamped. Okay? So all of the courts give you access, go back, filing details, to the View Court Case Documents button through AZTurboCourt once you're looking at an e-filed filing. Okay? All right. So let me show you a few other pieces of functionality, and then we will be wrapping. I'm going to go back to the All Other Counties group right now. And I want to show you a filing that included a subpoena. Because this is another very important thing. Whoops, spelled that wrong. For you to know about when you are going to have, for example, a subpoena or a summons issued. Okay, just find the one that I'm needing here. Great. Okay, so this is a filing, a subsequent filing. This happens to also be in Pinal. I think it's the same case number. And I requested to have a subpoena issued. And so it's generated for me. And there's a fee based on Pinal's fee schedule for that subpoena. Okay, I could click View and actually see what got generated. Okay, so it looks like I'm asking for subpoena for taking of depositions, and here are the details and so forth. Okay, this is actually a 6-page document, by the way, that got generated for you. If I scroll through here, you'll see typical subpoena language here in Arizona. Okay, so there you go. Now I can still attach up to 5 more main documents if I wanted to, right? Motions or anything else. However, do note that because a subpoena is included in this particular filing, e-service is not available to you. Because in Arizona, you cannot e-serve a subpoena. And I think that's true of a summons as well, a couple of other document types. And so you'll see here that the only service available to you is simply e-filing, not e-filing with e-service. And so that's why you might not want to include some additional motions here, because if you are using e-service on this case, you're going to want to e-serve those motions, right? And so if you're using e-service on a case and you're now having a subpoena issued, then just do the subpoena separately, right? Because it can't be e-served. You have to still go through the traditional means of service for something like a subpoena. And then those motions you could do as a separate filing, which you could then e-serve. Okay, so that's an important thing for you to be aware of as well. Okay, let's take a look at some other important pieces of functionality, and then we will be wrapping. A little bit earlier on, I mentioned something about this keyword matter number field. And you can see right now it's empty here. This is a field that you can use for tracking purposes. It has nothing to do with the courts. This is only for your own internal purposes. But it is super helpful because it's going to allow you to track client activity or case activity, really anything you want. You can put any sorts of characters in the keyword matter number field. It's alphanumeric, it's special characters, that's all fine. So let's say you use a client ID system. Well, you could put your client ID into the keyword matter number field, and now they're associated with this filing. And then later on, you can do searches and say, well, show me everything I've filed on behalf of that client in the last month, or in the last 6 months, or all of last year, or since the beginning of time, right? Or maybe you use a case tracking system, and you identify your cases in a particular way, and you can put that in, the keyword matter number field. And so to do so, you simply click at the top here, the Add Keyword Matter Number button. Actually, no, I'm just going to hit cancel and just show you this again for a moment. The top of this screen, once you've answered all the questions, and AZTurboCourt now brings you to the screen where it's got some documents or places for you to attach your own documents, you're going to see several buttons here at the top. And so that's where I'm focusing right now, and this Add Keyword Matter Number button. So I'm clicking on that, and it's just a simple field. You can put whatever you need to in here. So let's say this is a filing on behalf of my client A dash 23456, for example. But, you know, I could put in special characters if I wanted, that's fine. Or I could have a separate word here. Smith, I mean, you know, whatever you need to, okay? And click Save, and there it is, okay? So later on, I can search on that keyword matter number field. And if for any reason you needed to change it, you can still click on the keyword matter number button and remove it, edit it, whatever you need to. By the way, you can do this at any time in the filing's history. You know, the filing may already be delivered and you forgot to put in the keyword matter number. That's okay. You can add it after the fact because, again, it has nothing to do with the courts. It's for your own internal tracking. This might already be e-filed. The court may have already accepted the filing and you forgot to put in the keyword matter number. Well, it's okay. Just put it in after the fact, okay? So that's very helpful. The other thing that's helpful is this notifications button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. There's two different areas here for you. There's the email preferences area and the courtesy notifications area. So let me briefly explain each of these. I didn't cover the profile, managing your profile in this training. We do that separately. But in your profile, you have the ability to say that in addition to those internal status updates that I can see, you know, those messages, you know, as to what's going on with the status of my filing, you can also request to have those emailed to you. And so in your profile, you're going to have a default email preference setting. And so mine right now is no, don't send me any extra emails. I'll just log in regularly, and that's fine. But let's just say for the sake of argument that this is a brand new client, first time you're filing for them. This is your first time you're filing on this case, and it's Friday afternoon, and you're going on vacation, and you really are not going to be logging in regularly. In that scenario, you might say, okay, yeah, for this one filing only, for my brand new client that I'm, doing this first filing for, go ahead and send me email updates as to what's going on with the status of this filing, because I'm not going to be proactively logging into AZTurboCourt for the next week or whatever that might be. So you can override, just for this one filing, your default profile setting here. Okay, that's one thing you can do. The other thing that you can do is you can send other people the same status updates via email so that they would get them. Maybe this is your assistant or your boss or co-counsel, right? Potentially could even be your client. And you could have several email addresses in here. Just separate them with a comma. And they also would get status updates for this one filing, what's going on with it. And keep in mind that these are just status updates. These emails do not include copies of documents, okay? So that's an option for you. And whatever you decide here, just click Save. And you can always change it by coming back to that notifications button, okay? All right, so let's go to the home page once more. And I want to show you some other functionality regarding searches and so forth. I'm going to actually switch to the other server to do that. Let's see here. Going to log in like that. Okay. So when you first log in, you're seeing the 5 most recent filings you've been working on, but you may, of course, need to access other filings. There's a number of ways you can do that to get to that search screen so you can access all of your filings. Right here at the very top, List All will bring you to that search screen. Also in the user menu, you'll see a link called My Forms. Again, we use a lot of these terms synonymously. So My Forms, My Form Sets, My Filings, that's all one and the same thing. And so if I were to click on that My Forms link, it brings me to this search screen. And by default, we'll automatically put in a date that's 30 days back from whatever today's date is in the Created From field. And it's now going to show you anything you've been working on in the last 30 days. Okay? I'm actually going to go to a different user because I want to show you I want to show you some other filings, some other functionality here. I think this will actually work better. Okay, that's Attorney Donna. Yeah, okay. So again, 30 days back, and she's been working on 6 filings. And so each of these rows represents a unique filing, a unique form set. Again, they may be on all the same case, they could be on different cases, but by default, this list is going to be sorted based on the form set number with the biggest form set number at the top, and then it descends. But I could resort this based on any of these column headings. And so, and off to the right, I can see fees and so forth, if any have been calculated yet. Okay. Now, a lot of different ways I can work with this search screen. So, for example, I could say I want to see everything that I've been working on in the month of October, as an example. And so I see that there were 15 filings that I was working on that I began creating sometime in the month of October. And again, I could resort this based on that case number, and group them together that way. If I'm using that keyword matter number field, I could group them that way. Okay. Whatever my search result list is here, by the way, if I wanted to, in the upper right-hand corner, I can export it to an Excel file format, so that any spreadsheet software, Google Sheets, obviously Excel, any of them, I can open it there. And then if I have a really big list, I could do a lot of sub-sorting. If I said, for example, show me everything that I worked on for this client in all of, let's just say, 2017. I think that's going to be a pretty good size list. Yeah, all of 2017 for that client. All right, yeah, so 28 filings. And as you can see here, there are different cases. So if I export this to Excel, then I can subsort them and look at all the mid-first cases filings and all the Ralph Gleason filings and all the Lamex filings, right? Might even want to add up filing fees per case type, per case, right? So super helpful information there. But as you can see, you can also look up filings based on a particular case. Show me everything I've done on that particular case, or show me everything I've filed, in PIMA, And you can use these either one at a time or in combination with different fields here. You can also use this search screen to manage your workload, okay? And to do that, you could use the status field. Now, I talked about the statuses that are relevant to you. The most relevant ones are completed, delivered, and e-filed, right? But you could have potentially incomplete. In theory, you might have rejected, right? AZTurboCourt actually has a lot of statuses. Most of these are not relevant to you. But let's just say that you have been working on a lot of different filings, and there are a couple that you didn't finish. You got partway through answering the questions, maybe an initiating filing or something, and you didn't finish it. It's an incomplete status, and you don't remember the form set number. That's okay. Just come here and say, well, show me all of my recent incomplete filings. And, well, let's get rid of that. And let me go back to this criteria. I think I'll find them here. I hope. Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at different cases, and I'm going to find an incomplete filing, and then I can just click on it and finish it off. Finish it up, right? Or you might say, show me all of my recently completed filings. Okay? These are ones that you finished answering the questions, but you might still be preparing the documents to attach. And now you're ready to proceed, right? So, for example, here's a Maricopa filing, and see some PIMA filings there. So if I were to click on that Maricopa filing, yeah, I was creating an advisement and a proposed order and judgment. I finished my proposed order, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it and submit it. Okay? So by searching for your completed filings, that will allow you to very quickly go to those ones that you're ready to attach your documents to, if you don't remember the form set numbers. And here's another thing about proposed orders. and proposed judgments. It's very, very important for you to be aware of. So let me click on the attached link here. Now, again, this is a Maricopa filing, but this is true across the board for all of the counties. Notice that the allowed file type is here in Maricopa, doc or docx. In other counties, it might be docx and ODT. I think in the other counties it would be docx and ODT. But again, it'll just show you for that jurisdiction what's possible. Okay. What you will also notice is that PDF is not available, and it's not available in any of the counties for your proposed orders, for example. And that's because PDF essentially is a static document type. It's non-editable, which means if you submit your proposed order to the court as a PDF, the judge is not going to be able to make changes to it. Now, I know that's what you want, but it's just not necessarily the way the court works. So they need you to provide your proposed orders in an editable document format in case the judge wants to make changes to it. Okay? So again, that's why you're going to want to keep a lookout here for what's allowed. And so in Maricopa, it's a doc or a docx file. I know in the all other counties group, it's going to be a docx or an ODT, right? So again, very specific to each jurisdiction as to what they can receive. But again, a quick heads up, very important. Your proposed orders, judgments, and so forth cannot be given as PDFs. Okay? So that was using the search screen. And by the way, from this screen, remember I showed you all these buttons up top. You've got a List My Forms button. That's also going to take you to that search screen. So I'll click on that right now, back here. You might be curious to know if you've got any outstanding filings that you've already delivered that the court hasn't yet processed, right? You may be very busy and not realize you're still waiting to hear back from the court. So click on Delivered, and you'll see any of your filings that you're still waiting for the court to process. And then, of course, lastly, your e-filed filings. None there in that situation. Let me see if I can come up with a different scenario here. Not sure I will, but let's give it a shot. Yeah, okay, good. So when you search for your e-filed filings, this is where you're going to get access to the court electronic docket and the conform stamped copies, right? So that's why you're going to specifically go and look at an e-filed filing, because it's going to give you access to that button that gives you access to the docket. It has to be in status e-filed for that. And again, regarding the conform stamped copies, the timing is, as I said earlier on, different as to when they're made available to you. So when you're filing into the all other counties group of counties, and they've accepted your filing and it went from status delivered to e-filed, they do overnight processing. And so the clerks are going to do whatever they need to do. And once they've completed their work, the process happens overnight, and the conform stamp copies will then be available to you the very next day. So let's say the clerk accepted it at 10 a.m. on whatever day of the week it happens to be. They've accepted the filing at 10 a.m. They finish up their processing. Then there's the system will do this overnight processing automatically, and so you'll get access to those conform stamp copies the very next day. In a PEMA or Maricopa filing, that automatic process happens more readily. It actually happens every hour. And so once the clerk finishes what they're doing, the automatic process will kick in, and an hour later, you should have access to the conform stamped copies. Now, the caveat to that is that we don't actually have any control over the clerks finishing up whatever process they need to do on their end to make that happen. So it's possible that the clerk, through the system, accepted your filing, and it went from delivered to e-filed, at 10 a.m., right? But if they have some other things that they need to do on their end before it'll go into that automatic process, we don't have any control over that. But once they do their work, do that part of that process, then in PEMA and Maricopa, an hour later, the conform stamp copies will become available to you, okay? So that's just so you know, that's how that works. All right, so that is your search screen. And again, there's lots of ways you can use this, but those are some of the ways you can make use of this. And it's essentially giving you access to all of your filings in using different criteria. The other thing that you can do, let me click on your user menu, the financial button here, because here it's going to allow you to similarly access your filings, but from a financial perspective. How much have we been spending, you know, in a given situation? So let's go ahead and see if I've got any here. Actually, let me get rid of that one. All right, so in that month of October, I have 11 transactions. Okay, so because I'm looking at this from a financial perspective, rather than it being sorted on the form set number, it's sorted on the transaction date and time, with the most recent transaction at the top, and then it descends from there. But again, I can resort it based on any of these column headings. And again, there may be some here on the same case. They may be different cases. I can sort it based on that submission name if I wanted to, group them that way. I can look on over and see fees. Okay. I can see the payment method that I used. If I manually typed in my credit card or my bank account information, then there's nothing here in this field. This is the payment account nickname. This is when you've saved it for future use in N-Court. Okay, so here's a filing, looks like $272 and change, that I must have manually entered in a credit card or a bank account. Here's a filing where I used one of those saved payment methods. And so it's going to tell you which saved payment method you used, however you named it. Okay. And if I want to click on the transaction number, it's going to take you right back to that payment details screen that we saw before, where you could print a hard copy of this receipt or save a digital copy to one of your drives. Okay. And likewise, you can export any of these search results to Excel file format. Okay. So how much did I spend in fees for my client, A23456, in all of 2017? All right, well, I did 20 filings for them. And so I can export that to Excel, and then I can group them based on the case they were for and how much I spent per case, and then a total for the, for the client in general. All right, so again, really great, very easy, real-time access to all of your filings, to either actually get into the filing and work with it, or access the documents or the docket, or to run financial reports. And with regards to financial reports, you can also ask, so from this financial search screen, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner a button called Preferences for Reports. You can ask AZTurboCourt to automatically email you financial reports on a regular basis. So if that's helpful, click on that button, Preferences for Reports, and you'll see a screen like this. Now, disregard this top portion. This is only applicable if you've been given access as a financial administrator for your firm's AZTurboCourt account. If you're a financial administrator, you can actually see the financials of all of the filings across your entire firm. But if you're just a regular user, just an attorney, a legal assistant, whatever, and you're not a financial administrator for your firm's AZTurboCourt account, you won't have this filings for my organization option, but you will have this option, reports from my filings. And you can request the report be emailed to you weekly, monthly, or bi-monthly, which is essentially twice a month. And you could select several of these. You could say, hey, I want a weekly report and a monthly report. Well, whichever you choose, select your default sort order. These are your choices here. And then once you click Save, AZTurboCourt will remember that, and it will start emailing you financial reports per what your request was. And you can always change that. Click on that Preferences for Reports button again and change your settings. Okay? What that's going to look like is something like this. You'll get an email. It'll say something like Weekly Payment Report if that's what you requested. It'll show you the date range for that week, the total amount of fees paid that week, and then the report is attached, again, in Excel file format. Or maybe you requested a monthly report, and so the date range for the month, the amount, and again, it's attached. Okay? So that's payment reports. All right, and the very last thing I want to show you is if you are, in fact, working with saved payment methods. If you've saved a credit card or a bank account for future filings through AZTurboCourt, the ability to manage those, right? So once again, in your user menu, you'll see a link called Saved Payment Methods. Click on that, and it's going to, by default, show you all of your active saved payment methods. Now, again, this is the testing environment. You're not going to have, oh my, you're not going to have that many saved payment methods. You might have a couple, right? But as you can see, I can click on these links. Here's Karina's newer MC 1122. And so if I want to edit this, I simply click on the name of that saved payment method. And so I can rename it, and I can change its status. So for example, I could say I want to call this Karina's newer MasterCard instead of MC. By the way, I don't recommend putting in any identifying information like the expiration date or anything like that. We do that for tracking purposes. By renaming this payment method, it is not going to screw up when you go to make a payment in AZTurboCourt. It's also not going to screw up your payment reports. Because remember, the underlying key code that is associated with this particular payment method is what we and AZTurboCourt know about. This is just what you're naming it. So the next time you go to make a payment in AZTurboCourt and you choose the newly named one, they still know the underlying credit card that this is associated with. And likewise, AZTurboCourt knows the underlying credit card for running the financial reports. The fact that it was called MC when you did a bunch of filings last month and now it's called MasterCard will not affect your reports, okay? So you can always rename it. You also can change the status. So I can see that this is a credit card that's actually still valid, but maybe I don't want to use it anymore, and I don't want it to show up in my AZTurboCourt list because I don't want to inadvertently select it by mistake and then, you know, screw myself up. So I can't delete it because it's financial information. I need it for my reports and for auditing purposes. So instead, I can make it inactive. So I'll do that. I'll click Save, and now Karina's newer MC is no longer in my list of active payment methods. Okay, so the next time I go to AZTurboCourt, it won't be there, so I don't select it by mistake. Now, let's say 6 months go by and I want to start using it again. Well, I don't have to re-register it with AZTurboCourt. All I need to do in that situation is from this very same screen, do a search for my inactive payment methods. Okay, see, I've got several here. Find the one that I want, click on it, and I'll simply reactivate it. Click Save, and there it is. And the next time I go to AZTurboCourt, it'll be available to me again. Now, let's talk about credit cards and expiration dates. So I see one here that's already been expired because I put that date there. AZTurboCourt will not automatically expire your credit cards. Now, there's a number of reasons for that, but just suffice it to say that we will not automatically expire your credit card if and when it expires, right? So when it does expire, what you're going to do is you'll simply manually expire it like that, okay? So, you know, because if you tried to put that through AZTurboCourt, obviously it would not go through. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, I just had that card. It simply got reissued, and I now have, you know, a new expiration date, and it's good through 2024. That's fine, but from the perspective of the payment processors, it's a brand new card, even if everything else about it is exactly the same. Okay, so they need to generate a new key code for it. Okay, so you'll need to manually expire it, which I won't do right now. And if you want to then register that credit card, you can do so directly with AZTurboCourt. In fact, you don't have to wait to have another filing to do that. So previously, when I went to, you know, make a filing, I could manually enter in a new credit card, right, and then later on say, yeah, I want to save it, right? But you don't have to actually wait to have a filing to do that. Again, from this same screen, you can click right here. That's going to bring you to AZTurboCourt. Give AZTurboCourt a moment here. And now there's no filing associated with what I'm doing. I'm simply registering a credit card or a bank account, okay? And so provide the appropriate information. For the description, go ahead and put in the name that you'll use for your saved payment method in AZTurboCourt. And then simply click Submit. AZTurboCourt will process this, making sure it's a valid payment method, and then they will return you new saved payment method. Okay. So there you go. The other important thing for you to be aware about, if you weren't already, is if you're ever needing technical support. The fastest and most direct way to get technical support is to click on the help button. I think on a couple of screens it might say support, but again, they're one and the same thing, help and support. So I'm going to click on that help button. It brings me to our support area, and you'll see a link called Contact Us. Click on that, and you'll see an area dedicated to Arizona court filings. And here you've got the direct phone number for their support center for technical assistance, for any AZTurboCourt technical assistance issues. That is absolutely the fastest, most direct way of getting technical support. If you were to reach out to us, for example, to AZTurboCourt, we would simply redirect you to these folks because they are the folks that handle that, okay? Now, if you would like to communicate with us about how we can make your e-filing life better, then please do so. We absolutely want to know that. If there's functionality that you would like to see some enhancements or additions to, or perhaps new functionality, we absolutely would love to know that. And so the best way to do that is to email us. Here's the email address, customerservice@turbocourt.com. And we love to hear from you about those sorts of things. Let us know what would make your e-filing world better, because it's often what drives what we add to the software as we continue to enhance it. So there you go. And so in concluding, as I'm about to do, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being an AZTurboCourt customer. We really appreciate your business. It means a lot to us. Do let us know how we can make the e-filing world better for you, enhancements, new functionality, whatever that might be. And with that, we're going to go ahead and bring this particular training to its conclusion. Again, tomorrow you'll receive an email with a link that will to the recording of this training. You're welcome to obviously review it, any portions of it at any time. Feel free to share it with your colleagues, and we'll go from there. They can get trained as well. All right. So with that, I'm going to just wish you a good rest of your day and happy e-filing. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Take care.